what type of correction do we deserve here from the highs?
So I'm really terrible at making long-term predictions. Just simply because I'm not arrogant enough to presume how the future will unfold.
Yes, and your day-to-day expertise is looking at the technicals and saying this is what I think is going to happen in the near term, right? So,
if you look at past structural bear markets, 2000 to 2002, and of course 2008, 2009, or even before, there is actually a third possibility between new highs and new lows, and that is incredible chop for months on end. We saw that actually in 2000. If you look at chart of the Dow in 2000, it was just, there were new lows and then there were massive rallies, and it just basically chopped in a larger range for 6 months. 6 months before actually then the recession took hold, and then new lows were ultimately coming. That's why I'm saying you don't want to be perma anything. I mean, if you really want to take advantage of the volatility, by the way, I'm just generally saying what a fantastic year this is, because as opposed to looking at 2-3 handle ranges on the S&P for 5 hours, as we did last summer, you actually have some really cool moves, and you can take them on the long, you can take them on the short side. It's not easy, but it's there. The opportunities are there. So I'm loving this year from that perspective. But to answer your question specifically, if the world is not flat and if it's not different this time, just go back to my basic market cap to GDP. Is the world different to some degree? Maybe, with all this technology and the concentration in the power of some organizations. But, don't even assume 50% or 75% market cap to GDP. Go back to a standard fully valued market, which is 100%. We're currently at 164%. Do the math on the S&P. Where would we end up if this is a structural bear market? Again, not a straight line. You can go to 2,500. Why not? Seriously, why not? Okay. If everything in the last 14 years got so exacerbated by permanent intervention and permanent liquidity and these ballooning balance sheets, if inflation does not come down back to 2% by Christmas, but will take a year or two, then yes, why not? And the Fed actually reducing its balance sheet back to something maybe more reasonable. Remember, they were down to 3.7 trillion by 2018, and then they moved it up a little bit in 2019. But it was between then and when COVID came in, they increased it in 2020 by 76%.
Yeah.
And then another 19% in 2021, 19% in 2021. Why? With inflation running high. And so far, they've been so brave and so bold to reduce it by 1.3%. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it would be painful, but go back to my housing chart earlier, or the chart I mentioned in terms of the housing supply. People are the younger generation is literally begging for a housing crash because they can't afford homes. So maybe it's actually a good thing to get a proper cleansing of the system, to actually get some, more reasonable valuations that are commensurate with the salaries of people.
Is that what Emperor Sven would advise, which is we're just going to take the tough medicine now, let the system clear?
I was so happy when Powell said pain. I honestly say, I thought that was refreshing, because no central banker has had the guts to say it finally. He finally did. I hope he follows through on it. Our entire system has been built on pain prevention. That's really what it's been all about. And I don't want to see people hurting, but guess what? What we're seeing now is hurting people. It's the consequences of overdoing it. We're seeing people hurting because they don't see the opportunities to ever get ahead in this system. The problem with all this is they've exacerbated it all so terribly that I am fully cognizant. And of course, the people that are going to get hurt the most again are the ones that are first in line to lose their jobs.
Right. And we haven't even talked about layoffs yet, but I'm assuming
no,
you,
and
like
it
me.
really sucks, and that's why I think this whole system's frankly rotten to the core, because again, the benefits are skewed to the very few, and it's the lower end of the spectrum that's getting absolutely hammered. I see this here in the UK. I mean, what's happening now with electricity prices, obviously Ofcom came out with an 80% increase in energy costs that's going to hit people in October. People can't afford this. Then we had a barbecue this weekend, and one of the guests was an elderly couple. He's almost 80 years old, and he's telling me a story of how he's trying to manage his electricity bill. He's getting a little oven where he's trying to use it only once a day or something. I mean, this is already happening in August.
Yeah, in August.
It's terrible. I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer. I just think they created this beast, and they have to take accountability for it and try to figure out how to noodle through this.
If you enjoyed this video clip, click here to watch another one you should like.